Hi guys, have you ever wanted to make a brand new PC that is slim, fast, and doesn't break the bank? Well, that's exactly what I did with cost-friendly budget, and today I will show you how I did it, including how to apply some minor tweaks to get the best performance of your setup. I want to be fully transparent how much I spent on this PC build. So, um, as you can see, I spent around 1,200 euros, and full disclosure, some of the parts I bought through private sellers. Before we go into actual assembly, I wanted to give you a short review of the parts that I used. Starting by the new Corsair H60 water cooler for my CPU. It is a great compact solution for HTPC cases like mine. Um, it has a very nice looking LED pump together with 120 millimeter fan and radiator as well. Um, and this is actually the biggest part that I was mostly concerned because it barely fits with all the stock parts that are included in the box. To get the best performance, I chose AMD Ryzen 2nd generation processor, Ryzen 2700X, which is a great choice for both gaming and rendering. For the motherboard, I used ASRock Fatality B450 Gaming, which is a premium class mini ITX motherboard that supports AMD AM4 socket processors, has 7.1 HD audio, and 6 USB 3.1 slots, including Type A and C. For the graphics card, I chose MSI AERO 1060, which is good for full HD gaming and also light rendering that I'll be doing. And also I didn't know how much rendering capabilities I'll need, so I chose a cost-effective option. For the power supply, I chose Antec High Current Gaming 750 watts, which has Gold Plus efficiency and hybrid mode, which means that power supply is dead quiet because fan is not spinning under light load. As you can see, the power supply is fully modular, which is a prerequisite in this case, since the cable management is going to be very tight. For the storage, I chose Crucial MX 500, which is 2.5-inch SSD that actually supports good speeds and provides enough space for all performance related tasks. At this point, I wanted to save some money, so I bought Kingston HyperX Fury 16GB 2 RAM cards that are running at 2400 MHz. And you would say, wait, but wouldn't that actually slow your fast CPU down? And yes, but there's a possibility to actually overclock this card up to 3160 MHz that I'll show you later. Okay, so let's get into actual assembly of my new computer. One of the first tasks that I had to do was to move one of two 120mm ventilators that were included in this Silverstone RVZ01E case. And that was done in order to fit my Corsair H60 liquid cooling system. This was actually quite easy to do since there are already 3 slots for ventilators in order to fit liquid cooling systems. The second task was also easy, so I started by installing my Fatality B450 Gaming Mini ITX motherboard. Please note that if you have bought NVMe SSD that goes on the back of this plate, it needs to be installed at this time. As you can see, the next step is to fit the power supply unit, which is actually held by this mounting bracket. And the tricky part was not to push the button in order to leave the hybrid mode on. Next step is to mount GPU into Silverstone specially made adapter, And as you can see, there is plenty of space for even the biggest graphics cards. That Silverstone actually states that even the biggest cards should fit in this case. Next is time to install SSD, and as you can see, this GPU adapter is also a holder for three 2.5-inch SSDs. So I would say that's plenty of expandability in case I need more storage. Next, it's time to install RAM, and I started with just one stick, 16 gigabytes, to see how it fits. And as you can see, it's getting cramped with all cables going around power supply unit. However, as long as you take your time, it's not a problem to install them. After doing some cable management with very handy Velcro straps that came with the Antec power supply and connecting power cables, it was time to install GPU holder together with SATA and power cables to the hard drive and add my Ryzen 2700X CPU. The trickiest part by far was installation of water cooling system. According to the manual, 83 millimeters is the maximum height for CPU cooler, and when I measured Corsair H60 pump, fan and radiator, it was exactly 83 millimeters. That means there is no space for cables, and fan is practically sitting on the pump. Installation including some bending of tubes and positioning the fan correctly to match cover holes, but the main problem was thick 24-pin motherboard cable. Since the rotation of water cooler was not correct, I bought a cheap extension for 24-pin cable, as you can see here, and it allowed me to squeeze every single small cable into the corner in order to get the fan and the radiator fit correctly. Last but not the least is actually getting the lid closed, and it's also not as uh, easy as you would expect because you have to align the screws with the case before you actually can close. Otherwise, the case, the ventilator holes won't match. And when the screws are aligned, you still have to put a magnetic fan cover in order to avoid any dust coming in inside the PC. Last step is to tighten the panel with 2K screws and the assembly is done. Now, this is the moment you've all been waiting, some B-roll of Silverstone Raven RVZ01E case. Okay, so now it's time to talk about results and overclocking. For the graphics card testing, I used Heaven Benchmark 4, which resulted in a score of 2126 with all the stock settings. And by using MSI Afterburner and raising core clock by 120 MHz and the memory clock by 400 MHz, I was able to get the final score of 2271, which is around 6.9% improvement. Since Ryzen 2700X has an automatic overclock solution, I did not choose to make any adjustments since the main limiting factor is good cooling system, and my Corsair H60 CPU cooler is doing a great job to actually dissipating the heat. By overclocking memory from 2400 MHz up to 3133, I was able to get a modest 3.7% improvement. And here you see the settings that I was using. It is the tightest settings I could get without any errors, checking with memtest 86 overnight. The computer actually posted as well with 3200 MHz. However, when checking with memtest, I was getting some errors, and that's why I actually had to drop down the frequency. However, the most interesting thing that I found was actually switching from one 16GB card to two 16GB RAM sticks, which yielded a whopping 23.6% improvement. And that is a good case in case you want to actually buy more RAM to ensure that your computer is not running out of memory anytime soon, and actually improving the performance of your computer. So thank you for watching. This is my first video, and if you like it, please subscribe because I will be making other videos soon. Also, please share your thoughts what could be interesting to check next, and see you next time.